What's up, Ragin Nation? My name is Alex Yu and you're watching the Ragin Ronin review, driving edition. But actually, I got a review for you. I watched, what did I watch? I watched This Means War. This Means War. It is an action comedy starring Reese Witherspoon, Tom Hardy, and Chris Pine. And I wanted to watch this movie because I'm due for an action comedy. I've seen some comedies, seen a lot of action movies, definitely a lot of action, but I want to see action comedy. When I first read about this movie, I heard that Will Smith was involved, and I thought that he would be starring in the movie, but actually he just serves as a producer, and the movie is under his production company, Overbrook Entertainment. So I was curious to see what comes from the wild mind of Will Smith. And it is an action comedy that talks about two CIA agents who are just kind of looking for love. Actually, the girl, Reese Witherspoon, is looking for love, and she falls for two guys. Or two guys fall for the same girl, rather. I think that's the more appropriate way to put it. But she doesn't know that, but they know that, so they let her decide who is really the better guy. And of course, being CIA agents, they have a lot of resources to use at their disposal. That includes surveillance and a lot of other skills that they use in the field. And that's where the comedy comes in. And I gotta say that I really like this movie. Now, of course, you know, a lot of moviegoers are thinking about, well, how is that realistic? How is it legal to tap an innocent girl's phone or like put cameras in parts of her house? You know, the easy way to say it is that it's a training op, right? But they decided to go another route and say it's the Patriot Act, and really that's good enough for me. So I really like the characters in this movie. I like the characters that Chris Pine and Tom Hardy play. They are definitely a comedic duo when it comes to this movie. The chemistry is all there. The funniest scenes are actually when Tom Hardy and Chris Pine's character are in the same room together, and they're really sizing each other up. That's where you see where the main chemistry is, and it provides a lot of comic relief for the audience. And those scenes really do work more than the action. The action is entertaining, but it's really just a storytelling tool. I think most of the comedy does come from more of the dialogue-driven scenes, so I really enjoyed it more in that sense. Now, this isn't like any other action comedy that you've ever seen, and the reason why is that this movie plays out like two different types of movies. It's two movies in one. I like action comedies. I like a lot of action comedies. Some of them are Bad Boys, Lethal Weapon, Rush Hour, Beverly Hills Cop. And this movie is very different from that because, like I said, it plays out like two movies. In one sense, it's an action comedy. In another sense, it's a romance comedy. And that's where it's kind of gimmicky, but it works. It totally works. The action comedy only makes up, I would say, 30% of this movie. The romance comedy aspect of this movie is 70%, and that's actually the more interesting aspect of the movie. So at the beginning of the movie, you learn that these guys are after like some kind of I forget what the villain really does. Maybe a drug smuggler or a gun runner or something. I don't really know. We don't get to learn a lot about the villain. But you never see him for the rest of the movie. You only see him at the beginning and the end. And it makes the audience think that this movie is an action comedy. And it is, but it's not like an action comedy where you have the movie dealing with terrorists the whole time. It's really not that. It's really about two guys liking the same girl, and that's what makes up 70% of the movie. You can really tell that the whole villain aspect of the movie is actually quite minimal, and it's really secondary because there's really not much emphasis on him. You learn about the reason why he's there is not really because of any big grand scheme, but it's just out of revenge, and it is really simple, and you don't really learn a whole lot about his character. So it really is just to bring in some more action into this so-called action comedy, and it's also to show off the fact that they are two CIA agents and they use their heroics to save the girl. Some people might think that the villain is just such a weak element in the movie, but when you really think about it, if that element didn't exist, then the movie wouldn't be very unique. I think that is what made the movie special. And to have the movie about the two guys liking the same girl, that's been done before. So this is really just to give it that extra twist. Now, the fact that there is a villain in this movie does tie into the whole romance comedy bit, because, well, it's kind of predictable, but the villain does learn that the guy's like the same girl. I don't think I'm spoiling anything because that is actually really predictable. Because if you're gonna have a villain at the beginning of the movie, how are you gonna bring them into the end of the movie? And that's really by finding the protagonist's weak spot, and that is the girl. So that's how they really tied it in. It's simple, but it's effective. And I find this movie very enjoyable. It's definitely a movie you can take a date to because a lot of the comedy is very charming in this movie. It's funny and you do feel for both characters. I was actually surprised how funny this movie would be. And it's all because of Chris Pine and Tom Hardy's chemistry. At the end of the day, it was a pretty entertaining movie and I thought it was worth paying 10 bucks for. So you'll notice that I reviewed this movie after watching Act of Valor. And I can't really tell you which one I enjoyed more, so I am going to give it the same score, and that is a 6.5 out of 10. It didn't blow me away, but I really did have a good time watching it. Nothing really special about this movie. I do like the story, it was funny, and I was entertained, so 6.5 out of 10. I recommend watching it on a date, and I'm pretty sure you guys will have a good time. If you enjoyed this review, hit that like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation, and also follow me on Twitter at Ragin Nation. My name is Alex Yu, and thanks for watching the Ragin Ronin review. I'll see you next time. Peace. With this movie being an hour and 40 minutes long, the Navy SEALs sure do go through a lot. We get to see a lot of the aspects of what they do. In fact, it makes me feel that the directors wanted the audience to see everything.